They say betrayal starts with intention, a moment when you choose to act differently, to see someone differently. But what if it doesn't? What if it slips in quietly, like a breeze under a door you thought was locked tight? What if it begins not with a kiss, not with a lie, but with something as simple as a zipper? That's how it started for me. Not in a bedroom, not in a secret message thread, but in the soft hum of an evening when I thought I was just getting dressed for a friend's party. I was already running late. The mirror reflected my frustration as I struggled, clumsily, and without much success, to wrestle the zipper of my deep emerald dress into place. It clung tightly to my skin, hugging every curve. I cursed myself for picking something so snug. The house was quiet, except for the faint hum of the air conditioner. Mark, my husband, was on a work trip in Denver, the third one in 6 weeks. The only other person in the house was Tyler, our next-door neighbor and Mark's best friend since college. There was no plan, no expectation. I just needed help with the zipper. Tyler, I called from the hallway, unsure if he could hear me over whatever game he was half-watching in the living room. Yeah, he answered, his voice floating lazily through the air. Can you come here for a second? A pause, then footsteps. When he stepped into the bedroom, I didn't think anything of it. He was Tyler, the same guy who spilled beer on my wedding dress at the reception, who fixed our gutter last fall, who brought over soup when I was down with the flu last winter. He felt safe, familiar, practically family. I turned my back to him, lifted my hair, and asked softly, "Can you zip me up?" Everything shifted. His fingers brushed the small of my back, and my breath caught before I could stop it. It was electric, not the kind you explain away as static. It wasn't the zipper. It wasn't even the touch. It was how my body reacted, how suddenly the room felt smaller, warmer, closer. He hesitated halfway at my back, like he felt it too. And then I made the mistake of glancing into the mirror. Our eyes met. He didn't look away. Neither did I. His hands still rested on the zipper. "You look amazing," he said quietly. I laughed too fast. "Thanks, Tyler. Can you just finish the zip?" He did, slowly, deliberately. When he reached the top, he didn't let go. One hand rested lightly on my shoulder. The other trailed downward just an inch. Not enough to accuse, but enough to remember. "You okay?" he asked, his voice lower and rougher than usual. I nodded. But I wasn't. I left for the party soon after. I can't recall what I said to him as I walked out, just the pounding of my pulse in my ears. At the party, I smiled at all the right moments, clinked glasses, complimented the bride-to-be. But I wasn't really there. Every laugh reminded me of his voice. Every time someone brushed past me, I remembered his fingers. I didn't drink. I left early. When I got home, he was still there, sitting on the back porch, half silhouetted by moonlight, a beer in his hand, eyes fixed on the stars like they owed him something. "Long night?" he asked as I stepped outside. I nodded, wrapping my arms around myself even though the night air was warm. We started talking about nothing. Music, the neighbors, the weather. But eventually, the silence crept in, the kind of silence that demands to be filled with truth. "I think about you," he said, still not looking at me. I should have ended it right then. I tried. "Don't." But my voice came out too soft. He turned toward me. "You're not happy, are you?" It was the question I'd been avoiding for months. Maybe longer. Mark and I weren't broken. We just weren't anything. We didn't fight. We didn't scream. We just stopped noticing each other. We shared a house, not a home. Shared meals, not moments. Shared a bed, but not intimacy. Tyler leaned in closer. Not close enough to touch, but enough that I could feel his presence. "You deserve to feel wanted again. To be seen." I could have stood up, walked inside, called Mark just to remind myself of the man I married. But I didn't. And when Tyler kissed me, slow, tentative, I kissed him back. It wasn't fireworks. It was a slow unraveling, like stepping into warm water. Comforting. Wrong. Impossible to leave. We didn't sleep together that night. But something deeper happened. Something irreversible. The days that followed were a storm inside me. I'd sit across from Mark at breakfast, listening to him talk about client meetings while my thoughts drifted to the feel of Tyler's breath near my neck. Tyler didn't press. He didn't have to. Our eyes said enough. Our silences were louder than any words. Every brush of his hand, every small moment, passing a glass, a hand on my back, became its own language. We weren't having an affair, but we weren't innocent either. We lived in that space between. Guilty, but untouched. Faithful, but not loyal. Then one night, everything nearly changed. Mark had just come back from a 3-week trip. He surprised me with a reservation at my favorite rooftop restaurant, the one with the string lights, the jazz nights, the overpriced wine. I smiled. I wore red. I tried. I really tried. But all evening, I kept comparing. Tyler's laugh. Tyler's teasing grin. Tyler saying my name like it meant something. I hated myself, but I couldn't stop. Later that night, while Mark was in the shower, I checked my phone. A message from Tyler. Can't stop thinking about the other night. I'm outside. I froze. He was just outside the door, 20 feet away. Mark was upstairs. My husband. My vows. The safe choice. But my heart was outside. I didn't open the door. I didn't answer. I deleted the message. Turned off the lights. Sat on the couch in silence for hours. I didn't cheat that night. But I wanted to. God, I wanted to. Infidelity isn't always about sex. Sometimes it's about longing. About being seen when you've felt invisible for so long. The danger of being desired by someone who has no right to desire you, it's intoxicating. Terrifying. After that night, Tyler stepped back. Maybe he sensed I'd never fully crossed the line. Maybe he respected the boundary I barely managed to draw. He stopped coming around as often. Stopped staying late. Stopped looking at me like I was something fragile, something he wanted to protect and ruin at the same time. And Mark? He never knew. Still doesn't. Our life is fine. Stable. Predictable. But sometimes, when the house is quiet and the light falls just right, I wonder what would have happened if I'd opened that door. And the worst part, the part I'll never say out loud, is that a part of me still wishes I had. You don't wake up one morning and decide to betray your vows. You drift. You ache. You get tired of being strong, of holding everything together while no one notices you're falling apart. And then someone does. Infidelity doesn't always arrive like a scandal. Sometimes it's a whisper in the dark, a zipper, a single moment, and if you're not careful, it becomes the one memory you'll never forget. Not because of what you did, but because of what you almost did.